When my chavruta and I learn Gemara together, we enter an enchanted, complex and challenging world that fulfills us spiritually and intellectually in ways that words cannot describe. Yet, when I observe Gemara being taught in schools and yeshivas, what do I see? Frustrated teachers and unmotivated, bored, and even resentful students. So we have to ask, if Gemara learning can be so great, how come in reality it simply isn't? What a paradox! We need to remember that until the end of the 19th century, most Jewish boys attended Cheder only until the age of 11 or 12. And only about 2 to 3%, the boys clearly identified as geniuses, as having a Gemara code, would continue to learn Gemara in the yeshivas. When we add boys from wealthy families who could afford private tutors, we are still only talking about 5% tops. The other 95% had to earn a living in order to support their families. Today the numbers have flipped, with a huge proportion of Jewish children learning Gemara. And yet, the way Gemara is taught today is pretty much the same as it was 120 years ago. A teaching approach designed to serve the elite 5% is now trying to serve the 100%. And guess what? It's not working. Time to recalculate our route. In particular, we need to ask 3 pointed questions. How do we teach Gemara to all of today's generation and not just the elite? How do we prevent alienating so many of our students from Gemara and possibly even from Jewish tradition as a whole? Is the answer to simply give up and stop teaching Gemara altogether because the damage may be outweighing the benefits? Let's look at the 3 components that make Gemara learning so difficult. Language, content, structure. The language of the Gemara, Aramaic, is difficult to read, difficult to translate, and difficult to understand. The content of the Gemara is complex and fails to relate to the world of the average Gemara student. The structure of a typical Gemara Sugya is presented in a convoluted and non-linear fashion. And because the Sugya jumps from one topic to another, it can be exceedingly hard to follow. And for the average Gemara student, the Sugya might be regarded as random based on free association and may well be considered as flippant or even possibly silly. The problem is that the existing teaching approach focuses only on the first 2 components, on language and on content. We teach our students to read the Gemara, to translate the Gemara, and then to understand it. But we fail in teaching our students to tackle the structure. For the elite few, it doesn't matter. They get it. But for the average student, this process is too challenging, too tiring, and too annoying because we are focusing on the wrong components, language and content, while ignoring the most important component, structure. Structure is the real treasure. Structure is in fact the defining characteristic of Gemara. Structure is also what makes it so worthwhile to learn Gemara. Recently published research emphasizes the importance of divergent thinking in the educational process. By divergent thinking, we mean the ability to see multiple ways of asking and interpreting a question, the ability to see multiple answers to the same question, the ability to think outside the box and not to think always in a neat, linear, and orderly manner. The good news is that Gemara learning demands a lot of divergent thinking. The Gemara always offers multiple interpretations of the question and multiple answers, and it resists the temptation to arrange the content in a neat and linear fashion. Clearly, the key to solving the crisis in Gemara learning lies in placing a much greater emphasis on structure. Emphasizing structure will help develop students' ability to think divergently, to think creatively, to think analytically, and to develop higher order thinking skills. Emphasizing the Sugya structure will reinforce the student's sense of ownership and will encourage students to want and enjoy studying Gemara independently. And this is by no means a novel idea. This is not a chiddush. Hundreds of years before the introduction of the elitist system, countless books had already been written on how to approach Gemara learning. These books emphasize the importance of recognizing the Gemara's unique structure called shaklavataria. They emphasize the importance of being able to identify the keywords, to classify each unit of the shaklavataria, and to follow the non-linear progression of the Sugya. They tell us that by mastering the shaklavataria structure, the student will find it much easier to master the language, content, and even values of the Sugya in a far more intuitive and straightforward manner. It is this realization that prompted the Talmud department of the Israel Ministry of Education to team up with the senior faculty of Gemara Berura to develop a document entitled The 6 Core Standards for Teaching Mishnah and Gemara. All new textbooks, as well as the matriculation exams, are now aligned to these core standards. The Gemara Berura digital environment offers a powerful set of tools designed to support independent Gemara learning. Gemara Berura helps both teacher and student to tackle the complexity of a Sugya's shaklavataria. Tools include the highlighting of keywords and a dictionary of keywords, a dictionary of the names of the sages, tools to perform the divide, classify, connect process that generates a clear visualization of the Sugya structure using color-coded and formatted text, flowcharts, and tables. The feedback we receive from schools tells us something very interesting. The same tools and abilities that students develop when studying Gemara using this approach are also helping students in their other subjects. And since life itself is often complex, surprising, and unorganized, it should come as no surprise that these same tools help us cope with life far more effectively. What a sweet interpretation of the phrase Torat Chaim, the Torah of life.